Woof woof. So I had this idea of expanding my photography skills and going into film and making documentaries. So I thought it would be fun to make documentaries about postcards. Maybe find the spot where they took the picture and do a then and now picture of the postcard. And then I flipped them over on the back and I thought, I could probably figure out who sent the postcard and who received it. That'd be kind of fun too. So I found 3 postcards. I went on YouTube and I made 3 episodes. And I showed them to my wife and my kids and my coworkers and they said, "That's pretty clever. I'd keep watching that." So here we go. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Brian Zellmer. I've been competing in the Wisconsin State Fair for the past 11 years and thought it would be kind of fun to do documentaries about postcards. Not only am I going to try to find the bridge, the lighthouse, and the sign on the front, I thought it would be kind of fun to do a little genealogy research and find who the people are on the back. I hope you can spend some time with me on my next 3-part series. Welcome to the Postcard Pilgrim. In this episode, we stay at the South Pier Inn in the port town of Duluth, Minnesota. But before we go any further, let's ask the good Lord for some help. Dear Lord, thank you for the success of the show so far. Thank you for your glory, and may the show continue to give you glory in the miracles that you perform when I find the people on the back. Lord, this next postcard is very difficult, so please continue to help me to show your glory. Please help me to continue to show love to others, even though it's very difficult for me at times. But help me to remember that I show my love for others because of the love you have for me. This we ask in Jesus' name, amen. Our next postcard was written by a Roger to an Irene Haugen.
Dearest Irene, to let you know I received your letters of June 4th and 11th. Thanks so much for writing. Love, Roger. Irene Haugen, Route 3, Stratford, Wisconsin.
How cool is that? I can tell right away that this postcard is gonna be a pain in the butt. But God's done miracles in my past episodes, so why should this one be any different? The sender, Roger, really doesn't give us a lot to go on, so we're gonna start with the receiver, Irene Haugen. Using one of my favorite resources, findagrave.com, if you search Irene Haugen in Stratford, Wisconsin on Route 3, unfortunately, you get 0 results. Thinking that maybe Roger is Irene's husband, if you search Roger Haugen in Stratford, Wisconsin on findagrave.com, you again get 0 results. Being that the postcard was from Duluth, Minnesota, I tried to search Roger Haugen in Minnesota on findagrave.com, and I again got 0 results. I knew this postcard was going to be kind of difficult, but this episode is starting out like a scene on Family Feud instead of the Postcard Pilgrim. Getting a little discouraged, I turned my research and my efforts to the postmark, hoping to get some clues from that. From what I can decipher, I believe the post stamp is dated June 20th, 1945. Just to give you a little perspective on what point in time the postcard came from, in June of 1945, the 6th Marine Division was battling the Japanese on Okinawa. The stamp looked kind of different though. If you look real close, you can kind of read New York and Chicago. I never heard of this kind of stamp before, but after doing a little research, New York and Chicago is an RPO or an RMS. RPO stands for Railroad Post Office, and RMS stands for Rail Mail Service. The New York and Chicago RPO or RMS was a 790-mile rail line that picked up mail all along the east coast of the country. Trains on this 790-mile railway had a mail car that would pick up mail in all different towns in the east of the country. So this postcard could have been mailed from anywhere on the east side. Getting even more discouraged by researching the postage stamp, I was getting kind of flustered on how I was going to find out who these people are. But remembering that God is still in the miracle business, I just kept plugging along, waiting for him to show his glory and give me some answers. Going back to my other favorite resource, findagrave.com, if you search Roger in the state of Wisconsin in 1945, plus or minus 25 years for a death or birth date, you get 66,062 Rogers to choose from. If you search I. Haugen on findagrave.com and use the plus or minus 25 years for the birth and death, you get 47 people to choose from. Taking the 47 memorials from Find a Grave, I switched my efforts to Ancestry.com. Painstakingly picking apart those 47 finds, I narrowed it down to Theodore Haugen. Theodore's name is spelled different than what's on the postcard. But Theodore does have a wife, and her name is Irene. Using Ancestry.com again, we find Theodore Haugen in the 1940 federal census with his wife Irene and his daughter Joan. Following Theodore across the line on the federal census, we find that he is a laborer for the WPA. On May 6, 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt created the Works Progress Administration. This Works Progress Administration, or WPA, employed millions of Americans when the Depression broke out in 1929. The project built buildings for towns with the hopes that the buildings would then be rented from the towns by factories or other manufacturers. Being that the census is in 1940, Theodore, I believe, is working on a building project in and around the Eau Claire or Marshfield area. Even though this postcard is becoming kind of difficult to research the people on the back, I'm getting kind of educated on RPOs, RMS, and now WPAs. Searching ancestry again, we find Theodore in the 1950 census, except this time his wife is listed as Eleanor and his daughter is listed as Joanne. Fortunately, in doing a little research, Eleanor is actually Irene's real first name. Irene is Eleanor's middle name. So in 1940, she went by Irene, and in 1950, she's now going by Eleanor. Same thing with Joan. In 1940, Joan is short for Joanne. And not to make things even more confusing, but Joanne's middle name is also Irene. Scrolling over on the 1950 federal census to the occupation of Theodore and Eleanor, or Irene, they're now both working at a shoe factory. Searching the WPA projects in the state of Wisconsin, we find that there was a shoe company by the name of Weinbrenner that was built in Marshfield. I believe that Theodore built the building for the shoe factory and then was employed by the shoe factory after completion. If you GPS the location of the Weinbrenner Shoe Company in Marshfield compared to Stratford, Wisconsin, they're not too far away. Being that in both federal censuses, the Haugans are listed as being in Chippewa Falls, I don't know why Irene Haugen would have had an address postcard in Stratford, Wisconsin. Unless Stratford was the only local post office that serviced Chippewa Falls. In episode 1 of the Postcard Pilgrim, I talked about my folks moving from Menominee Falls to Sussex. Well, when we moved to Sussex, we had a Sussex address, a Merton telephone number, but we lived in the town of Lisbon. Sussex was our servicing post office, and that's where our mail came from. Maybe the Haugans had a similar situation. Granted, my research is all theory. There's no proof or exact proof of an address, but this is the best I could come up with. Let's move on to trying to find who Roger is. We're gonna assume that Roger is hopefully a relative and not an estranged person of Irene. My friend Bill always advised me to never talk badly of the dead. He always said, if you do, then they come find you at night in your dreams. So we're not going to talk badly of Irene, and we're going to assume that Roger is a relative. Searching Irene or Eleanor's family tree, I didn't find any relatives by the name of Roger. But when I searched Theodore's family tree, I found that he had a sister and her name was Amanda. Amanda went on to marry a Marvin Zimmerman, and Marvin and Amanda had a Roger Zimmerman. I believe that Roger Zimmerman might be the Roger in the postcard. But I have no proof of any of my theories that I've come up with so far. In the postcard though, Roger does say, I received your letters from the 4th and the 11th. I believe proof for any kind of correspondence between Roger and Irene lies in those letters. So if you are related to a Roger that got letters from an Irene in Wisconsin, I would be very interested in reading what they have to say. You can contact me in the email below and send me a note if you have those letters. That's the best I could do at finding the people on the back. So let's go check out the lighthouse on the front. I know exactly where that is. Let's go check it out. Come on. Hey, welcome back. So if you're on the outside thinking, where in the heck is Duluth, Minnesota? Let me clue you in a little bit. First, we're in the country of the United States of America. In the United States of America, you'll find 50 states. Minnesota is one of those 50 states. In Minnesota, you'll find St. Louis County. St. Louis County, you'll find the port city of Duluth. On Lake Avenue in Duluth, you'll find the South Pier Inn. At the South Pier Inn, you'll find Suite 301. And if you ever get a chance to stay at South Pier, the room is pretty sweet. Just outside South Pier is the area lift bridge from episode 4. The area lift bridge spans the canal that is the entry to the harbor. Ships coming off the Great Lakes Superior enter the harbor through the canal. The canal is protected by two breakwaters, a north breakwater and a south breakwater. On the south breakwater are two lighthouses that help guide the ships. In the foreground is the south inner breakwater lighthouse, and to the right in the background is the south outer lighthouse. The lighthouse on our postcard is called the North Pier Lighthouse. The North Pier Lighthouse is on the north breaker of the canal. From examining the postcard, it looks like the best vantage point to take a picture of the North Pier Lighthouse is on the south outer breaker. Usually when I'm out shooting my show, I wear my hat and my shirt, and I got approached by a couple, and they said, "Hey, are you that Mike the Ship guy on YouTube?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm Brian the Postcard Pilgrim." And they were like, "Okay, what show do you have?" So I explained to them, I find postcards and I find where they took the picture, and then I research the people on the back and, try and figure out who the people are in the back. And they were like, "Oh, good luck to you." Being that I'm kind of new at my show and, don't really have a lot of followers or viewers, it was a little slice of humble pie. But maybe, hopefully, someday I'll get to be as cool as Mike the Ship guy. Making our way back over the bridge, I thought I'd take a run through Canal Park and show you some of my other favorite attractions. First up are all the picture cutouts. I think picture cutouts are the funniest thing in the world. Another attraction is called Canal Park. Canal Park is a food truck, and they serve different pork sandwiches and stuff like that out of the food truck. It's a pretty good place to stop and get some lunch. But the cool thing that I like about it is they have this great big silver pig on the top of the truck. The pig on the truck is kind of comical, and it's kind of funny to me, so I always stop and take a picture of it, or with the picture of the pig or the picture of me and the pig might look kind of familiar because it got me 3rd place in the color wheel color silver, and you may have seen this picture in the 2023 State Fair. Not to bring the house down, but on a more serious note, there's a memorial plaque that I always try to go see too. Mr. Culbertson was Coast Guard boatsman 1st class, and he was out on the North Breakwater during a storm, and at the time there were 3 brothers that were stuck out on the North Pier Lighthouse in the storm. There's a real nice online article, and I will put that in the links down below so you can read in more depth the history and the story. The article does a lot better job than me just rambling on about it. So while I was walking around Canal Park on the north side, another couple approached me and they said, "Hey, are you that Mike the ship guy?" So I did a repeat of the explanation I gave to the other couple that stopped me. Being that I prayed for showing love towards others because of the love God has for me, I looked up Mike the ship guy, and he's called Vibe with Mike. You can find the link for Vibe with Mike in the comments below. Let's give Mike a little love and take a look at what he's been doing too. The gates that are on the breakwaters were a invention after the brothers and Edward perished in the waves in the storm. During heavy winds and high waves, they used the gates to close off the breakwaters so that people won't get swept away again. Walking up to the lighthouse, it started raining, and then I heard thunder and saw a little lightning off in the distance. I'm a pretty fair weather photographer. I'm not gonna risk getting struck by lightning to show you a lighthouse, and I'll leave it up to you to come and visit the North Pier Lighthouse on your own. It is a pretty cool place. You should probably come check it out if you'd like to. Hey, welcome back. Being that my wife is a alumni of the University of Duluth, and I'm very proud of her and her accomplishments in her academic past, we always try to make a trip up to the Duluth bookstore and pay a visit and pick up a little swag. The University of Duluth's mascot is the Bulldog. So whenever we can, whenever we stop in Duluth, one last thing I gotta do is Give that big burly bulldog a hug. If, just if by chance, this YouTube channel doesn't quite work out, I think I got a chance to do senior modeling. This concludes this edition of the Postcard Pilgrim Episode 5, The Lighthouse. Join us again next time when we explore the cool little port town of Grand Marais, Minnesota, and try to find the sign. Until next time, my friends, take care and God bless. Woof woof. Until next time.